All right, everybody. Getting started here in a second, sharing the presentation. We're also live in a couple other places, so if questions come in on YouTube or Facebook, we can answer questions there too. Uh, Today's workshop is a quick, short workshop followed by an AMA. Ask me anything about ads, your funnels, growth marketing. We're here to help. So, uh, buckle in. If you have questions that pop up that are related to what we're going through here, just drop them in the chat. Let me know where you're watching from. I'm in Portland, Oregon. I always like to know where people are, but I've lived in a few places. So feel free to share in the chat. And then if you have questions, ask them there. And then after this short presentation on what to let Meta automate for you and what to keep, actually human and not let the system get in the way. We're going to open it up to a full AMA. So we'll cover a lot of different topics, whatever you want. If you didn't submit a question on the form before this workshop, don't worry. Those questions come first. Otherwise, you can just raise your hand in the chat and we'll bring you on to chat. So we'll get started here in about 1 minute. Um, so get ready, get set, get rid of all your distractions, and then we'll get going. All right, I said 1 minute, but I'm ready. So let's do this, everybody. So again, what to let Meta automate in 2026? Hint, it can do a lot for you. And so we're going to look at that. And then also, what should you still keep human? What shouldn't you trust? And where's the line? So that's what this short workshop is on today. And the key is basically since the beginning of this year, although they've been doing it more and more, Meta is really pushing full automation, AI enhancements on all your ad creative. At the ad set level, audiences are basically interest audiences are going away even more. There's very few left from what there used to be. And so I have some very strong opinions that I will share. Would love to hear what you all think too. But now we see even it defaults to AI enhancements on everywhere. Sometimes they get turned on, even if you turn them off. Very sneaky. So we'll look at that. But it's happening and it's getting harder and harder to turn it off. You can still do it. You can still have full control of most things. And so we can talk about that too. Let me know in the chat. Are you currently running ads or planning to start soon? What's your current level of experience with ads? Maybe frustration with AI enhancements. Feel free, if you're watching on the YouTube stream, you can comment there. Otherwise, comment right here in the Zoom chat. Make sure you message everyone so we can all see the response. But just currently wondering, what's your current level of experience with ads? If you're shy and you don't feel like sharing, don't worry, but we'd love to know. I know some of you, I recognize a few names. I know you've run ads yourself, you've run ads in the past. Maybe you didn't have your most success. Christopher says started his first campaign yesterday. Excellent, Christopher. Christopher's joined a few of our workshops. That's great. Sandra, starting again soon. Haven't run them in a while. A lot has changed, but nothing that should be a huge surprise. It still looks mostly the same, Sandra. So when you get in there, I think today will give you a couple insights into a lot of the new things that have been added around the AI enhancements. So we'll get to that. Chris says, been running ads for a few years, but the AI enhancements are not something we can use at our company. Yes, and we will talk about that too. For most people, at least some of the enhancements usually are eligible to be used, but you do have to worry, certain industries, certain companies just have specific things they like around brand guidelines, sticking to very tight control. And so sometimes you're not allowed to. For us, we manage ad spends for, large creator type businesses. Oftentimes they have very strict guidelines around how the ad creative needs to look. So we can't let Meta optimize or adjust or test the ad creative for us. And so that's definitely one area. Yeah, and Chris said Medicare, Medicaid rules. Yeah, targeting and AI enhancements. You probably need to get all your copy pre-approved. We've worked with pharmaceutical companies before where getting, ad copy changes takes about 6 weeks between going through all the different layers of lawyers looking at ad copy. So you definitely can't have Meta freewheeling and choosing ad copy for you at a whim. So that definitely adds a layer and makes it even more important to be focusing really closely on what Meta is turning on, maybe even after the ads launch. It's worth checking a couple times. So we'll cover all that. Great. So general rule, and again, this isn't for everybody, but I want you all to start with the idea of keeping all of the AI enhancements on. Um, so this wouldn't work if you have specific industry rules, like Chris mentioned, if there's actually legal regulations or anything like that. Or if, for us, if certain clients have really stated that for brand guideline purposes, it has to be certain colors, it has to be certain fonts. Some of the AI enhancements won't work. But we really advise even our clients who are pretty strict with that to, if they really want to maximize their results, get the best result possible for what they're optimizing for, AI enhancements do typically help because they're not only constantly testing a lot of different things across the different ad creative and even at the ad set level with targeting, they're also optimizing it for the person seeing it. So one ad will look very different for the different person, but the more you engage with content on Instagram and Meta and now on WhatsApp, the more Meta knows what you engage with, what you like. And so they will tailor these ads to actually be more attractive to that individual. So it's not just testing a bunch of different things for no reason. It's tailoring the output so it will convert better. But again, a lot of caveats. But if you can and you can get comfortable with it, leave most of the AI enhancements on, and we'll talk about what I usually recommend not doing too. Budget automation. So depending on your level of experience, old school ads, you would set the budget at the ad set level. So at the audience level, you would set a fixed daily or lifetime budget. And then at the campaign level, that would just be where everything's grouped. Now you can set your budget at the campaign level and let Meta spend across your different ad sets. So campaigns called CBO, ad set for ABO, ad set budget optimization versus campaign budget optimization. Highly recommend you do CBO. CBO lets Meta automatically distribute across the audiences based on performance. So unless you have real reasons why you want certain audiences to get spend or you're testing something, letting Meta just give it a couple different audiences and let it spend across them and shift the budget as it sees results improving to different audiences will do much better for you than manually doing it. If you gave three ad sets, $20 each per day, and had to constantly, increase one by $5 every 2 days when you see performance change and decrease one by $5 when it goes down, you're just going to miss a lot. Whereas Meta, when it's optimizing across all your ad sets with the budget, one day it might spend 30 in one, 30 in another, zero in the third. The next day it might shift and spend all the budget in that third one if it sees it working. And so it's much faster and it's much better. Down here, here's one thing you can do. We still do this if we really want to force a test, say for different ad creative in an ad set or an audience we really want to see how it performs. You can still use the campaign budget optimization, but at the ad set level, you can set minimums and maximums for daily spend. So you could say I have a $100 a day campaign with three ad sets, but I want each ad set to at least spend 10% of the daily budget. So at least get some spend and some testing in. But for this, almost for everyone, if you think this doesn't apply to you, I'd love to hear examples and we can talk about it. Maybe that's true, but for the most part, you will get the best results doing it this way. So that's at the budget level. And that's really same with, if I just go back here one slide, at the ad set level, the two main places are the budget. You can set automation at the campaign or ad set level. And then the other big one at the ad set level is placements. So setting placements to be all placements and letting Meta optimize across all placements. That's for a conversion campaign. If you're optimizing for a lead, a checkout, a purchase, some kind of event. Traffic campaigns, don't typically advise running traffic campaigns. You'll get better results with some kind of conversion metric, but if you need to run a traffic campaign, then I would turn off Audience Network. Those are meta ads that show up in app advertising and things like that. You end up getting a lot of phantom clicks from people who accidentally click and poor click quality. But when you're optimizing for a conversion, someone actually has to do something where you're sending them, so you never or almost never run into those issues. Okay. The second section here, audience targeting. Still talk to a lot of people. This is the old school way, trying to get very specific interests, down to specific magazines, things they think their audience likes, authors they read, books. There's tons of interest. There still are a lot of interests in Meta, but so many have disappeared over the last 2 years due to privacy updates and privacy rules that Meta's had to aggressively adapt their algorithm, and it has gotten to the point in the last year where it is probably better now than it was when you had really specific interest targeting. The algorithm works really fast, and so Meta calls this A plus audiences or Advantage plus audiences. It gets confusing because Meta calls a lot of things Advantage plus across the board. They're very bad at branding this, but for Advantage plus audiences, the main thing to understand is you can give Meta, ages, age ranges, interests. You could add a lookalike audience. You could put in custom audiences like site visitors. But if an Advantage Plus audience is turned on and it defaults to that, so you'll see like a little green icon saying Advantage Plus is on, Meta uses everything you give it as a suggestion. It might start there, but as it sees who is who is taking your conversion event, so opting in, buying, whatever you're optimizing for, it will start to go find more of those people based on what those people look like. And it's also using, as it learns this, all the other data it has from everyone else to find the right audience for you. So it quickly shifts. The main thing here, I would say for interests, you can seed interests, but I would usually use A plus audiences. If you're just starting out or haven't or run something brand new and you haven't run ads in a while, you could really try to focus, turn off the A plus audience, focus it on a specific interest, just to help it get started. But even then, I think A plus audiences almost always win. But the key is your ad creative and your offer is really the targeting. If your ad creative is specific and your offer matches the ad creative, then the only people engaging with your ad are your ideal audience. The only people converting are your ideal audience, so that the data Meta gets then tells Meta exactly who your perfect audience is. And then it works for you and it works extremely well. And so the key there is just having a very clear, valuable conversion objective. One thing, if anyone here has experience running a funnel for lead gen, sometimes with lead gen, you do need to force the age range because oftentimes the least expensive age range tends to be 55, 65 plus. But unless you know that that audience also is your ideal buyer, you might need to force your lead gen age range to be lower so it matches your ideal typical buying audience. But that's just a general thought and theory for really all of your targeting. If you're running lead campaigns, you want those leads to look as close to your buying audience as possible. That means your offer should really be aligned with your free offer should be aligned with your paid offer. I've talked about that in other workshops if you've joined us in previous months. So we're not really going to dive a lot into this mini workshop. But keynote ad creative is your targeting, and that's going to do the best for you. So anybody who's running ads now or done them in the past, just curious, you can give a little plus sign in the chat. Are you still only manually building audiences and you're not using the A plus, or have you been trying those A plus audiences? And if you don't know, it's not the most obvious. It's just a little stamp in the audience section that's a green icon that says Advantage Plus. Are Are you forcing those off, or are you letting Meta do it for you? If you don't know, you could just say don't know. And if you haven't run ads in a while, maybe not. Yeah, so Chris said still manually building, forcing them off. That might be for regulatory reasons. We can talk about it, Chris. We've had to do that before too for certain clients. But if not, because interest audiences aren't perfect anyway, it's just Meta's, if someone has an interest in a magazine, it doesn't mean they like that magazine's Facebook page. It's just somehow Meta has tagged them as having an interest. So a lot of times with audiences, you can get away with A plus, but we'll look at that and we can open that up. That can be a conversation during the AMA as well. All right, so all the things Meta can do, I'm not going to touch all of these here, but it can do a lot and it's adding capabilities every day. Some of these you actually have to accept, but a lot of these are auto turned on unless you turn them off. Meta has built-in AI tools, so there's a part where you can actually have Meta create brand new images for you or add backgrounds to your images. That currently is not something that automatically happens. You have to go accept it first. But things like visual touch-ups, where it'll kind of change the brightness, contrast, aspect ratio, adding animations to images, adding music, video filters, all of that is usually default to on. There's even one here, so like you'll also see ads where banners are added, and the headline that you enter that normally goes, say, under a Facebook newsfeed ad is actually a banner with a green background on it over your ad. And this is where, for us, a lot of businesses, they don't want to lose control of their branding, and so they really want all of that turned off. But this for us goes back to our rule of if it doesn't work, it won't get spent. And if it's working, then you need to think like, well, if it's actually generating really quality leads, generating sales, how important is it that it perfectly matches our brand? If it's a deal breaker, you can turn these off. Meta will say across the board, each of these is probably like 2 to 3% improvement in conversion results. Of course, they're going to say that, so it's always worth testing yourself. But again, it's individualizing some of these changes based on the individual person. So not everyone's going to see it. You might see a lot because you're in your own existing audience. You're probably engaging more than normal. So you're going to see every ad. Some of these look ugly. They get tested, and then Meta doesn't keep spending if they don't. So the place that we turn off the most, or the selection that we turn off the most, is right here, the text improvements. This is one where I personally don't usually feel comfortable letting Meta come up with the copy. There's a section where Meta will suggest AI copy for you, new copy, and you can choose which ones to use. But letting Meta just have the copy is too much freedom. There have been issues people have had before, and it's especially important if there's regulatory reasons or if you have sensitive content where you're worried about, misspeaking or saying something uh, that could really hurt your brand. You don't want to give that up to AI. So visual improvements, we usually, if it's up to us and the client doesn't object, we let most of those run. Anything with text improvements, we usually keep tight control of still. We might take suggestions and use them, but only if they've gotten client approval, only, we're not going to let it do it on its own. Other creative enhancements, and again, this gets updated all the time. Engagement, these ones are easy. We almost always turn on this relevant comments one. That makes sure like positive social proof shows up first for people. It will adjust it based on the individual too. Enhanced CTA, we typically use that. It makes that call to action button more visible and prominent. It can also change it to more match what's in your ad, but that's one we sometimes don't do because of that reason. So for example, you might have a join now in your ad language, in your ad image. It might change the CTA for that, which is no problem. But again, it's a little bit of losing control of language, which is something we avoid. The generative AI is what I was speaking about when I was saying this is the part where you still have to approve most of it. So updating your background image of a product image. It'll give you like 10 to pick. You could pick one. It'll make new images out of your product feed or catalog, mostly used in e-com. But again, you have to select it. And then at the ad level, it'll share 5 new headlines, 5 new pieces of ad copy. You could just leave it on and it'll test them all for you, or you can choose which ones you want to add to your current mix. We've almost never used these because, like I said, we then, we want client approval. But if you're running ads for yourself and you like it, you could just use those. My guess is at some point this will get more baked in and default to yes, as opposed to right now where you have to opt in yes for it. But that's just the way we're headed. And again, you're going to see these ads and see weird ones more often than everybody else just because you're visiting your site. You're getting mixed up in a lot of retargeting, or even if you're not directly retargeting, Meta is going to see that you're clicking on ads and just seeing them. So sometimes you'll see a lot of weird ones, but you can go in the ads manager and see if it's getting spend and if it's working. And almost every time, if it isn't performing based on whatever your conversion goal is, Meta's just going to not spend to it or stop spending to it. So that does really work. Again, this goes back then to some of what Chris was saying in the chat too. When to keep the human oversight? Sensitive subject matter, health, finances, grief, mental health, anything where AI adjusted messaging that you don't have control over could come across as tone deaf or inappropriate. Sounds obvious, but there have been many, many, many instances of people falling on their face with this. So, just like anything, you really don't want to lose that control. I haven't seen yet Meta with visual imagery run into problems because what they're changing is not the actual images in the sense of like it's not making brand new images. For the most part, it is just changing background colors, background design, things like that when it auto makes the images for you. Or adding, your headline, which you've already approved, as a text overlay, things like that. So that's why for most of the visual enhancements, we leave them on. And then the other one is just, if you're running ads for yourself, you can do whatever you want, right? You're the one in control. If you're running ads for someone else, like in our position for our clients, or if you're on a team and you have strict brand guidelines, you need to get buy-in in advance on what is acceptable for how much variation these ads can have. So if your company, and when we've worked with, say, like larger software companies, their brand team is often making ad creative or at least templates, and it has to match that. The font, the colors, everything, even the type of video edits. And so in that case, we'll turn off most of the visual changes just because they're not interested in even testing the difference. They have a bigger picture play in mind, right? Not just of getting the initial conversion, but also of building a consistent brand image. But for most creator businesses, we usually say loosen up the brand guidelines a little bit. Let Meta test a couple different looks. We highly suggest, even for yourself, your brand could have certain colors, but maybe for ads, different colors work. If it converts and lead quality is good and you're seeing buyers, lean into what is converting. If you're running traffic campaigns, that's a little different. So these are the two big ones, just something to really think about, and it can be scary to give it up. Okay, AMA is coming up next. So if you have questions, get ready. Just wanted to make sure you were aware. Talked about it here. Meta Ads is doing more than ever to make it easier for you, but it can still be confusing. So we have a course called the Stress-Free Ad Setup, walks you through set up the tracking. And again, you really, really want to have conversion tracking set up. And we can talk about the different ways to do it, but that's going to have Meta work the best for you. Walks you through how to organize your campaigns, build the campaign step by step, understand the metrics, and to quit guessing and actually know what to do next. So there's a bunch of bonuses you can get if you join. We have a live demo of building a campaign from scratch so you can follow along. We have multiple guides on metrics, on how to build landing pages that convert, on the best types of creative. If you go to intentionalspark.com/stress-free, that's where you can grab the course. In addition to all those bonuses, just for workshop registrants, we're also offering a 30-minute laser strategy call Typically, this is about $375, $750 for an hour-long call. On that call, it's your time. We'll look at your funnel, advise on improvements, audit your ad account, advise on setup. We focus where you need help the most, so just come prepared to that call, but we dive deep. And so that paired with the course usually gets you really far with your ads. You can get this bonus if you enroll by this Friday at midnight Pacific. So that's $599 course with the laser strategy call and the bonuses. That's typically a $1,500 value. So we'd love to have you join if you're ready for ads, if you're running ads and feeling a little bit stuck or lost. This really gets you out of that stuck place and accelerates your progress. So we'd love to have you enroll if it's a good fit. If you have questions on it, feel free to ask right now. Happy to chat live or email me at tony@intentionalspark.com. All right, time for the AMA. Ask me anything about ads, ask me anything about your funnel strategy or growth marketing, other ad platforms. We work across multiple social ad platforms and search. So come up with your questions. We had one question that came in that I wanted to address on the form first. And it really was about, and this is why I brought it up earlier, just about traffic campaigns versus conversion. If you're confused at all about that, use conversion campaigns. It's not just about reporting. If you haven't run ads before, sometimes people think it's just so you can get the reporting into Meta. The conversion campaign is actually going to have all the algorithm and AI enhancements work for you. Meta will easily see who is converting, what's working, and then get more of those people. So the question originally was just around like, is it worth it to even try and figure out how to set up conversions? It was from someone who's a bit newer with ads. And yes, your time is best spent getting conversion tracking working. It is going to do more for you than any trick in a link traffic campaign. So, all right, Christopher has a question and has politely raised his hand. Christopher, you want to throw your question in the chat? And if we need to, we can bring people on live. But so Christopher said, I mentioned, yep, you launched your first ads yesterday. You got 6 conversions so far. Yeah, I think that's useful. I think a screen share here of looking at an ad account is a useful exercise for people. So yeah, Christopher, here, let me invite you in. And then you should be able to screen share. You might need to ask first, but otherwise, let's take a look.
Okay, let me.
Hey, Christopher.
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, cool.
It says your microphone's making noise. Oh, hang on, Christopher. I apologize. Let me change something on my end here. Okay.
Okay.
I hear you now, Christopher.
Yeah, there we go.
Excellent. So you started your ads yesterday?
Yeah, should I go to the.
Yeah,
There we
let's
go.
look. Great job. Okay, so where it says custom
Uh,
right here.
this?
Yeah, click on performance and clicks right there. Okay, I just want to look at your metrics and then scroll to the right and we'll look at some of your numbers here. So this started yesterday?
You want to take control? Do you have that facility?
Excuse me?
Do you want to take control of my screen?
I can't. It takes too much
Okay,
time
okay,
to
okay.
get access. But I just wanted to double check here. So $1.24 per lead is excellent. 6 leads, amount spent. Keep scrolling right. I just want to see amount. I want to see link clicks and make sure. Okay, perfect. 66. So 66 people have clicked your ad. 6 have opted in for $1.24 a lead. Um, so far, it's very early. Yeah, link click-through rate's really good, 3.96%. It's very early, but the conversion rate to a lead is low. 6 out of 66 is a little bit under 10%. So I would watch what happens with that number. But ideally, for a lead campaign, we want to see about 20% or better of cold audiences convert. So I got that number by taking the 6 from leads and dividing it by the 66 link clicks. And that gets you, I don't know, 8%, 9%,
Okay.
something like that. So that's a number I want to see go up, but your costs are exceptional, so that's great. I remember talking to you before. Did you end up
Yeah.
targeting locally or did you do a larger, more
Yeah,
international?
so I started locally in my home country. I'm in the Caribbean, so
Yeah.
I just to my island, and yeah. So actually, I want to advise on that. So it's towards the workshop this Sunday. I am promoting locally. I guess when would I know when to expand, and when do I shut the ad off because it's a live event. Although on the creatives there are no dates. Do I shut them off on Sunday afternoon before the event, or do I just leave them on pause so I don't, the next time I decide to run them again, I don't have to re-enter
Some
the learning
people
phase?
worry. I never worry about starting a new campaign.
Mhm.
So what you can do is schedule this to turn off so you don't have to be stressing about when to, you can go into your ad set and set an end date and time. And so for anything that's live, I highly recommend setting an end date and time. That way, if life gets in the way, something happens, you forget, it still turns off at the right time.
Yeah.
So inside the ad set, you can set your end time, but I would just let it turn off. You can always remove it later and let it turn back on, but I also don't worry about just duplicating a campaign and relaunching it either.
All right.
I would say, I know you're targeting locally, it's Trinidad and Tobago, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So lead costs are really strong. Your conversion rate is much lower than I'd want, but also
It's early. It's early too. Yeah.
it's early and you're also getting very inexpensive CPMs. Now, I'm not, maybe that's a common, like for typically targeting, I would say like a US Canadian audience, CPMs for a lead gen without knowing your industry, $20 to $30. So it's more expensive. Um, because part of CPMs are just that's what you're technically paying for ad inventory. And so it's about competition to your market, competition in your space. So it could be that CPMs are cheaper because that's just generally cheaper CPMs where you are. Could also be for what you're competing for, it's less expensive there. You'll have to see about lead quality. So when people show up for the live event, do they seem like the right audience, like a buying audience? If not, then sometimes it's not a bad thing to have a higher lead cost if they are higher quality. So then you could try some other locations as well. But all of these numbers, starting yesterday, that's pretty strong. 6 leads at under $2 is really strong for a live event. So it's more now about judging the quality of it.
All right. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Good luck. Good luck on the live event.
All right. Thanks.
Great. All right. Anybody else have questions or comments? We just looked at an ad campaign. If anyone's confused about that, I could show you some of these settings if you're confused about what they look like or where they are, if you haven't run ads in a while. Let me know in the chat. I can definitely go through and do a screen share of a demo campaign in our ad account, show you some of those options. But otherwise, okay, Sandra wants to see the UI. We can do that. Let me pull up a dummy campaign here. One thing to know about Meta, they love testing. So pretty much all the time, 10% of accounts have different features and it's different 10% of accounts. So for example, for us, it gets really annoying and confusing. We're in many client accounts and they'll all look slightly different and have different features and different capabilities. And sometimes those capabilities don't get rolled out, they get rolled back. And so it's always a little tricky then when you're saying click this or click that, because usually it still exists, but Meta's changed where it is. So I'll walk you through our setup, but many of our clients have a very different, not very different, but some of the options are in different places. So here I said, let's set up a lead campaign. And again, if questions pop up as I'm going through this, just throw them in the chat. I'm looking at the chat live. I'll be able to answer. So for a lead campaign, There's many types of lead campaigns. You can choose, one of six options, and then Meta throws in a couple extra, but not actual. For the most part, I'm advising people do leads or sales campaigns. Sales are going to be optimized for a purchase, optimized for a checkout, lead campaign, optimized for an opt-in, a lead, a registration, something like that. The setup is the same. They just have you choose this because there's a couple variations later you don't need to get into. But at the campaign level, that's where you pick your budget automation, your budget strategy. Our recommendation, go with campaign budget. It'll spread your budget out. So say we're doing $20 a day, it will spread that budget out across however many ad sets we have and change the spend depending on results and focus the spend on what's performing the best. So for the most part, highly recommend CBO, which is what this is called. Bid strategy for anyone here, we can get into it if you're doing some more advanced things, but for the most part, highest volume, just telling Meta, go get us the most results for our level of spend. And that's it. That's all I would choose here. Now, depending on industry regulation, you might be forced to select something here, but that also limits you in many ways. So, ideally, you don't need to select that. Basically, the advice is if you think you do, email me. You usually don't, and you ultimately don't want to unless you're forced to. At the ad set level, there's a lot of things you can do. We're not going to talk about like what's possible. Like for example, you could create a rule in Meta that actually tells it which audiences you value more. So you're running a lead campaign, but you're like, I know people ages 35 to 54 are our best buyers. You could say I'm willing to bid for a lead 50% more on that group because even though they're a more expensive lead, they're a better buying lead. And so you can do things at the ad set level like that. Um, Here's that end date I was telling Christopher about, how they recommend any live event, set that up. And down here, audience controls. Okay, so it defaults to Advantage Plus. See the green check mark. Audience controls, these are the only things you have control over when you're doing a full A plus audience. You can do location and it will limit your audience to location. You can do a minimum age up to 25, but that's it. And you can tell it what audiences to exclude. So you could exclude custom audiences. This isn't interest, this is just custom. So you could upload an email list, a buyer list, things like that, and exclude it, and it will listen to you. Down in Advantage Plus, this is where, see right here, it's saying everything's optional. I'll show you how to get rid of it. But again, for the most part, I would recommend using it. It works really well. So you can set an age range. Again, it's optional. So if you do 25 to say 54, but it finds 18-year-olds and 68-year-olds are getting leads the most, it will still shift that for you because it's optional. You're just giving it a starting point. Same with everything else here. This is where your interest would go. And again, it'll expand beyond it. Now, if you want to have some more control, this looks a little different. So this is an example of this looks a little different for everybody, but switch to original audiences. You can see they really don't want you to stay in current setup, apply value rules, further limit the reach. So further limit the reach is what you want. It's still going to be an A plus audience because we haven't done anything yet. So when you come down here, it's still going to be an A plus. But once you start making changes, then it will make updates. So now when you do this, you could say US. And what we've seen too is some people, you actually, when you open this up, there'll be a checkbox saying, don't count this as a suggestion. Once you unclick it, then it loses the A plus. For us, we don't have that option. So that's why you're not seeing it, but that is often what we see. And so you can see here, it's still for interest now, even with us saying US only, forcing the age range. This is not for everybody, but for us, it will still expand it beyond our interests. This isn't for, not everyone has this. It's actually newer for our ad account too, but they're just pushing it. So for us right here, it's actually, even when we put in interest audiences for detailed targeting, it still might expand beyond that based on the audiences that perform best. So that's why it's so important to have ad creative that only resonates with your key audience. Um, Again, not everyone has it like this. So most ad accounts don't. Ours does. So we've lost the ability to specifically target. But you will still have the option. And then you also can have a tighter age range. You also can force gender if that matters for your business, things like that. Placements, again, like I said, let all placements run unless you're not doing a conversion campaign. So if you were doing manual placements, you could turn them off. I would almost always turn them off audience network. We never see that really convert. And then at the ad level, this is where we will see lots of fun options. So if we give it a landing page, like let's say our course, don't want to do an instant form. So now it's going to make me see it's defaulting to all of the things already. So I don't want instant forms. I want just website. So this is where you got to be careful now with Meta. You'll see it really steers you towards what it wants. So this is instant forms and website, and it's buried website only. But I want to just send people to my landing page. And then if I come down here, paste that URL again, turn off all the browser add-ons. We didn't even talk about browser add-ons, but you can add like a call button so people can call, a WhatsApp so they can connect via text or WhatsApp, and an instant form is Meta's own form where people opt in using their Meta email, and then they opt in and the lead shows up in your account center. We're not talking about any of that today. I would leave that off. And then I would always have events on. And then for creative, this is where you'll start to see options like this. So, and we usually turn a lot of this off, but you can set brand defaults. And so this then helps train the AI, but again, I don't really trust it. Our logo's in there. We can have font styles, things like that, but it also is not perfect. So you can also turn branding off and say, don't apply any branding. That's up to you. If you build it out, apply it, but to your own setup, that's great. Site links, these will put little tags underneath some of your ads, and will link to different places on your website. A lot of this is automated. It'll just link to pages it thinks will convert best for you. So we usually leave that off too, because we want control. So let's say I pick, let's do video. Let's do video here. So I pick a video. You can crop in here. One thing to know, this wasn't really part of the workshop today, but I'll let you know. Vertical video auto crops on the newsfeed to a 4:5. But if it too much gets cut off, you only have the ability to auto crop to 1:1. And so a lot of times that causes problems. So our recommendation is always when you do vertical video, film it in a way where a 4:5 window still fits all your content, because when Meta auto crops, it then crops it correctly. So you text here, add copy 1. You can add up to 5 in here. Now, okay, so I wanted a little bit of text. So now you can see the A+ creative text generation is going to work. Same thing will happen with the headline. So here it gave me 2 new ones because I didn't give it many to work with. let Meta automate your ads, reach new heights, say goodbye to tedious tasks, hello to more conversions, clicks, and sales, ad targeting for max ROI, bidding strategies. So again, I didn't tell it any of this. Didn't even talk about A/B testing. So this is where don't just default trust it. I wouldn't want to run an ad that says this if we're not delivering on it. But also, it's not terrible. I could edit this and test it, but I would rather just have that control myself. And you can see where you could get in trouble if it's a more sensitive topic or something like that. It's just going to make up what it thinks the topic should be about. Same thing it'll do for headlines. I'm not going to show that though. And then description you usually don't need. Little tip from us, we've tested it. Learn more button almost always wins for call to action, no matter what you're promoting. Free offer, paid offer. You're welcome to test it, but I usually find it either doesn't matter or the learn more wins. Okay, here we go. Now we're talking about creative image generation. So it has my video and it's going to make a bunch of different images. So just based on the screenshot from my ad. So I could pick all of these and say, you know what? Go for it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. For brand reasons, having this version of me, which oddly looks like an older version of my sister, that's very weird to see, is, not something that makes sense because this person isn't delivering the workshop. I want it to match me. And these are also images and it's a video, but this isn't the best. I wouldn't want to probably use this copy here, but you can see how it changes the background. It does a lot of different things. So, I could turn one off and let it run, see how it performs, generate new images. But again, this one is default off. None are selected. We usually just skip it because we don't have permission from most clients to like drastically change the actual background of an ad. But I do recommend testing it. It can be effective, so I'm not going to let it wait for that. Okay, and then this is the other one. Usually these are all on. I think these are off for us because we usually turn them off and hopefully it's learning, but you'll sometimes come in here and they're all on. Show summaries, translate text, add overlays, visual touch-ups, get rid of my wrinkles. A lot of these we agree with. Text improvements, don't love this. This one, though, isn't the worst. If you read it, it actually looks at your ad copy and takes out what it thinks will be good headlines from it. But at the same time, it's still touching copy. So we usually don't like that. But most of these don't affect text. Animations, add music, all of these can work well. So that's why, if we have our way, we leave them all on. And that's it. That's like where a lot of the AI automation is. It's when you go in there to make the original ad. And you can see it's still tailoring the ad copy. So I want to make sure that's off. And then at the last thing down here, this is the list. Yeah, they hide it on you. They also turned on one updated enhancement. I don't think I did that, so they just turned that on for me. So that's where you want to come in here and go back and make sure everything is off that you wanted to be off and everything is on. Any questions on that? Meta does walk you through this, so it's just, uncheck, review everything, uncheck anything that you don't want to have on. I would say especially if you're going to get in trouble, say you're working in a regulated industry, like Chris mentioned, after they go live, you want to review them again. We've gone live and a day later, one of these will turn on. We've seen AI enhancements turn on a week or two later. Meta makes a backend update, something glitches happen. It's just something you're going to have to watch for if you're really opposed or can't run any or some of these enhancements. Great. I don't see any questions coming in chat, but I hope that was helpful to see. And again, if you're going through it yourself and building ads, I know Sandra mentioned like first time in a long time. Meta does walk you through all that. I think the most important thing is just go back and check that they're turned off and then turn them off as you're going through because they do try and hide them. So like scroll all the way down, click all the tabs. they do bury some of these things if it matters to you. Otherwise, test them all and let them run. All right. Well, that's it, everyone. Really appreciate your time. If you're looking for help getting to the next level with ads, would love for you to join the Stress-Free Ad Setup course. It does have that workshop-only offer of the laser strategy call. We get a lot done in those 30 minutes, especially we'll send you an email, tell you what to prepare. That paired with the course usually can get you up and running and testing ads. So if you're ready, if you're interested, if you already have ads running and need help, that's the place to start. We'll send you an email too, but the link right now is intentionalspark.com/stress free. All right. Appreciate it, everybody. Have a great rest of